You're at a meeting, you share an idea, and the room just moves on. No one looks up. No one responds. At a family dinner, you try to join a conversation, but your words seem to vanish into thin air. You walk into a group, say hello, and people barely glance your way. Maybe you're in a circle of friends, and as the jokes and stories fly, you feel yourself fading into the background. Like you're not really there. Hours later, you're still replaying the moment, feeling a sting that's hard to explain. It's not just awkwardness, it's a deep ache, a sense of being erased. You wonder, why does being ignored bother me so much? Other people seem to shrug it off, but I feel it in my chest. Am I just too sensitive? Am I broken? Being overlooked feels less like a small slight and more like a punch to the gut. What psychology says about your mind is something most people never hear, and it might completely change how you see this too sensitive side of yourself. You've probably heard it from others. Don't take it so personally. You're too sensitive. Just speak up more. Maybe you've even told yourself, I shouldn't care this much. It's not a big deal. But the truth is, when you're ignored in a group, at work, or even at home, it doesn't just sting, it lingers. You start to wonder if you're invisible, or if you're just not interesting enough to matter. Sometimes you try harder, talking louder, making a joke, or forcing a smile, only to feel even more out of place when it doesn't land. Other people seem to brush off being overlooked, but for you it feels like proof that you don't belong. You might even start to avoid group settings, or keep your thoughts to yourself, just to avoid that ache of being unseen. Most people stop here and decide they're just too much or not enough, but that's only because nobody ever explained what your brain is actually doing when it feels ignored, and how you can work with it instead of against it. But here's the twist. Psychology suggests that people who feel deeply hurt by being ignored often have a rejection-sensitive, connection-driven nervous system. Your brain is wired to care about social signals, especially those that hint at exclusion or disconnection. If you grew up in environments where you were overlooked, dismissed, or had to work hard for attention, your system learned being ignored equals danger. It's not just about wanting attention. It's about your mind protecting your sense of safety and belonging. You're not too much. You're built to notice and respond to the threat of disconnection. That's why being overlooked in a group, at work, or even at home can feel like a real threat, not just a minor annoyance. Let's break down what's really happening in your mind and body when you're ignored. First, there's rejection sensitivity. Some people are wired to be hyper-tuned to social cues, especially signs of being left out or overlooked. When you're ignored, your brain's alarm system lights up. Am I being pushed out? Am I losing my place? This is even more intense if you've experienced exclusion, bullying, or emotional neglect in the past. Second, there are attachment wounds. If you grew up with unpredictable attention, sometimes seen, sometimes invisibly, your nervous system learned to scan for signs of abandonment. Being ignored now feels like a replay of old pain. I'm not important, not wanted. Even small slights can trigger big feelings because they echo deeper wounds. Third, there's your social threat system. Humans are wired to care about belonging historically. Being left out meant danger. When you're ignored, your body reacts. Heart rate rises, thoughts race. You feel a physical ache. This is your system's way of saying, connection matters. Pay attention. Most people just see you as too sensitive. They never see the rejection radar, the old wounds, and the social alarms your mind is juggling every time you're left out. The next step is learning how to honor your need for connection without letting the fear of being ignored run your life. Here's where your need for connection can quietly turn into a trap. Wanting to be seen and included is healthy and human. It's what makes you caring, loyal, and able to build real relationships. But when the fear of being ignored starts to run your life, you might find yourself over-explaining, people-pleasing, or avoiding groups altogether just to avoid that sting. You might replay every moment, searching for proof that you matter, or withdraw completely to avoid risking that pain again. On the outside, it looks like just wanting to belong. On the inside, it can quietly become a prison of self-doubt and overvigilance. The question to ask is, right now, am I honoring my need for connection or letting the fear of being ignored control my choices? When you see it clearly, your story stops being just needy or broken and starts sounding more like the truth. You have a connection-driven, Rejection-sensitive mind in a world that often rewards indifference. You notice what others miss. You care deeply, and you're wired to value belonging. That's a strength, not a flaw. The work now is to own your wiring without letting it run your life. When you feel ignored, pause before reacting. Remind yourself, not every silence is a threat. Practice self-soothing. Take a breath. Check the story you're telling yourself, and reach out to someone who does value you. Try tiny experiments. Stay present in a group even if you feel invisible. Or let a moment of being overlooked pass without spiraling. Over time, you'll teach your system that you can survive a little disconnection and still be worthy of connection. If this felt like someone finally explained your reaction to being ignored, you're not alone, and you're not too much for caring this deeply. Share a time you felt invisibly. Your story could help someone else feel less alone. Subscribe and stay close if you want more videos that decode traits like this without shaming you. And tell me in the comments what situations make you feel invisible. Because next, going even deeper into how sensitive. Connection-driven minds like yours can find peace even when the world goes quiet.